Hello everyone, my name is Alyssa White and welcome to the Dear Journal podcast, a podcast where we talk about any and everything and freak out about life together. I hope you enjoyed today's episode and let's get straight into it. Alright guys, welcome back to another episode. Now, this isn't usually the time that I would record a podcast, but it's like 10:30 and I honestly just felt like I need to get some things off my chest, and it was like, I feel like people don't talk about this kind of stuff until they're on the other side or they've gone through it already. But like, I feel like I've been having a quarter life crisis, but it's like pushed up. And I feel like I've been having existential crisis like every other day. And I'm just like, what's going on, you know? And I'm not like a sad person naturally. I'm a very optimistic person naturally. And so when I get into these kind of like flows of like just feeling sad, I'm like, okay, what's going on here? And this morning I tried to break it by getting up early and running during the sunrise, and like it did make me feel better. But I don't know, I feel like because I'm having to figure out what to do with my life like earlier than some other people, the quarter life crisis just like pushed up, and I'm like, okay, well, there's that. But I feel like I've gotten comfortable at home, and I'm just having the same problem again, where it's like I knew I was going to come back home when I was in Spain, and I knew I was going to have to rebuild, and I was going to have to be uncomfortable again, and I was going to be like going through a lot of stuff. And it's just so much easier when you take a risk first, because when I was first going to Spain, I had no idea what to expect. I didn't know what I was going to go through. And now it's like, now I know I'm going back. I know that I'm going to have to deal with the same kind of issues, the same having to rebuild a life there, you know, rebuild relationships to where I feel comfortable enough and supported there that, you know, I have like an established life. And that's with anything. But having to do that on your own again, it's like, I'm just kind of dreading that part, because in my head, I know this is the best thing for me. I know that it's going to be the most growth. You know, being uncomfortable is always going to do that for you, but it's like, now I actually know what I need to expect, and I'm kind of dreading it. And it's like, I feel like I've built some comfort at home again. I've rebuilt and gone through the hard part, the surgery, and it's like with each of these phases, I knew that I was kind of going to be dreading some part of it. You know, coming home, I knew that I was going to be dealing with this injury. I knew that I was probably going to be sad because I wasn't going to be in Spain anymore. I had just built a whole life there, right? Now I knew I had to rebuild it here. Now I've done that. And now it's like, okay, we're getting ready to uproot it again. And, you know, you might think, well, okay, you're going back to the same place. You're going back to Spain. But it's like, this is a whole new team, whole new characters. And, like, can we talk about how just, like, it gets so draining when the characters and people in your life are constantly changing. Like, I do think it's a beautiful thing, and I love meeting new people and having new experiences with new people and having those connections, but you know, it's tiring as well, having to constantly kind of not feel comfortable around people, right? And not feel like you can necessarily either be yourself or just like have people to talk to. I mean, I think one of the things that's been the hardest has been knowing that a lot of the friends I have that I'm closest with are now like spread out around the world, and I don't see them every day, don't even get to talk to them every day. And I'm not really that kind of person in general that needs to like talk to their friends every single day, but like to where it'll be like 2 weeks, and it's hard because we're all in different time zones, we're working, like I'm working like a lot, and that's also part of it. Like, I don't know if I'm like overworked or what, but that part is getting to me as well. And so it's like, there's definitely, like, I'm not happy necessarily just staying here. Like, I would not be happy if I knew I was only staying at home, because my biggest fear is like not living up to your potential. And so like that's not really an option for me, and that wouldn't happen regardless. But knowing that I need a change sucks, but is very much necessary. And I know that in the end it's gonna make me happy. But it's like knowing that you're gonna have to go through all of that hardship to get there again sucks. So I'm just kind of figuring out and mentally preparing myself for that. And yet there's still uncertainty on when I will actually be going back. I know I'm going back. It's more like when. And so that's not helping either, because I'm not sure what to prepare for either. But regardless, I am excited. But I just know I'm not like naive to it anymore. Like they say, ignorance is bliss for a reason, because like last year me, coming straight out of senior year, super excited, I'm going to Spain. Oh. And because I was backpacking with my friend beforehand, I honestly feel like the fact that I was going to be living in Spain was like an afterthought, because I had so much planning and things to do for the trip when we were backpacking, that the fact that I was actually going to be taking that train by myself to southern Spain, and that was kind of it. Like my parents did not drop me off or nothing. So I was all on my own from the time I got on that plane in the US. And God, I mean, did I grow so much in this year? Oh, I feel like I've been like 4 different people. I mean, they're all authentically me, but you know what I'm saying? And like, if last year me went through all this stuff that I feel like I've been through this year, I don't know if she would have held up, to be honest. I like to think she would have, but every time you go through something hard, or it's just not really like a up of your life, it's more of like a neutral or like a down. You're on the up and coming. You just gotta remind yourself it's temporary, but it's also like, I know that when I come out of it, I'm just gonna be that much stronger, mentally, physically, emotionally aware, all of these things. And like, that's great and everything, but sometimes you just don't want to do it. Sometimes I'm just not in the mood to deal with all this and have to be strong. You know what I'm saying? And so to like know that I have to mentally prepare myself for that is harder. But I also know that I would absolutely hate it if I was like stuck here. So that was never really an option. It's never going to be. But I'm just kind of wondering if I'm going to be this person who is like moving every year or so. And like, if I need to prepare myself for that kind of life where I'm going to be uncomfortable every time I finally get comfortable, right? And is that the best thing for everybody? Maybe. I don't know. I think there's something we said for like settling down and really building a life somewhere. But I'm also somebody who needs kind of new things every once in a while, and needs new life experiences and craves that. Which I don't feel like is a bad thing, but I do think it comes with a lot of hardships naturally. But I think that people always talk about this stuff later on, and they'll be like, last month I was going through this, and sometimes I'm just like, well, that's great and everything, but you seem like you're doing great now. What were you thinking in those moments, Because we all like to act like we know what's going to work out, and I am very optimistic, but I'm not naive either at this point, and I know that there's a lot of things I'm going to have to deal with, and a lot of things I already have dealt with, and so no, I'm not naive to this kind of stuff anymore. And you can't foresee the future, so taking each kind of hardship with a grain of salt is like knowing that it's turning you into a stronger person, but you're gonna have to get through it first to get that, And luckily, I feel like I've held up through all these things. So, and it's not even, I thought that the first few kind of weeks of like post ACL surgery were like the hardest. And yet I'm having this whole another kind of, I feel like, low right now, where you'd think I feel better because I have something to look forward to, like going back to Spain. But because I don't know when I'll get my visa and all of that, I think it's just making it hard because I don't have like a set date where I know I'm going back. And so I'm like, dang, am I going to be stuck working like another 2 months here at home? And well, it could be good because I'll have more time to recover before I go back. It's just kind of like delaying that fun, like being in a new place, the novelty of it. And that sucks, of course. And if there's anything I learned this year, it's been patience. So, knowing that I'll get there eventually, it's just going to take time. It's so frustrating. But at the end of the day, I think I've become more sensitive to the good as well, because genuinely when good things were happening last year, obviously you're not going to realize it maybe like during that second, and I'm sure I'll even look back on these times longingly, but you don't know until like after, and you're looking back at it as a memory, that those were probably like some of the best times of your life. And then you try to just get there again. Like, I feel like that's what it is. Like, life is constantly like, okay, you experience this high, and then you spend whatever other time trying to get back to there. And that's like what it is, like constantly. And of course, that comes with like the ups and downs of it. And so it's just this continuous process and journey. And no, it's not about the destination, but you'd like to know that there is one, right? And I guess just trying to figure out what that is hard. So, and I don't think I need to have it figured out right now. Sometimes I just really wonder if I'm just taking life too seriously. And I'm like, man, do I really need to like be thinking this hard? Or can I just enjoy not knowing, enjoy being innocent in a way? But that's also scary. So, I'd like to think I think things through. I kind of wish that I don't as much as well, and just kind of go for things too. And I think that's kind of evident in just going to Spain in general. I mean, I think I'm a more spontaneous person sometimes, and a very much of, okay, let's just wait and see. But I think I've become a more rational person in the last year, in just not being so optimistic sometimes to where maybe it could be a fault, right? And that just naturally happens as you get older, right? Like, you become more jaded to the world. It's just what happens. It's sad, but somebody's kind of got to hit you with reality, right? It's a sad truth, but there you go. And, I always want to maintain that childlike wonder. Like, I literally was reading this book, and it's just talking about, how like children, they like feel all of their emotions just so much more intensely. Like, they're so happy, and when they're happy, they just really feel it. They're running around, they're on top of the world. Then they run into something, they fall down, and they're crying, they're sad, they're crying for their mom because they feel that sadness, and nobody's ever told them that, they need to restrain that or anything. They're just gonna feel it, and then they shake it off, and in the next 2 seconds, they're good. And sometimes I'm really like, you do need to keep that kind of mindset as well, and just letting it flow, like having these emotions, recognizing maybe I'm sadder in this time, and then just letting it go. Like, don't hold on to it. When you hold on to it, that's when it gets like just dangerous, in my opinion. These are temporary, and I don't think that emotions should weigh you down. But sometimes you just get into a funk, and you can't help it. and I'm trying to recognize that those are just temporary, but you also got to be realistic with yourself and accept what you're feeling and, validate it in a way, because if you don't, that's not helping either. So I think there's a lot of different ways to handle things. I'm trying to figure out what the best ways are, obviously. But honestly, this was just kind of like a little chat, little update as well, because I know I'm not the only one who thinks these things and has these little crises every now and then. It's very normal. And if I validated any of your emotions today, then I'm happy that I could do that, because that's why I want to do this and sit down and talk about this, because I think that these kind of emotions can make you feel very lonely, and that's one of the worst things to feel, I think, is lonely and unvalidated in your emotions, and just kind of these little existential crises everybody has, where you're just freaking out about life because you don't know what's coming. You don't know if it's going to work out. I think everything will work out in its own way, but you just don't know how. And you might have to go through a lot of stuff before you get there. So, thank you guys for sitting down and chatting with me today. And I appreciate you joining me. So, I'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much for listening to the Dear Journal podcast, and I hope you enjoyed diving into today's topic. If you want to continue to get updates and stay notified, you can either turn on the notifications or follow me on Instagram at alyssa.white.22. That is all for today's episode, and I hope I see you next time.